All right, restarted. All right, so Rick, how are you today, mate?
I'm good, and yourself, thank.
Yeah, I'm still feeling a bit crook. Those who tuned into the Len Harris video yesterday probably would have seen me blowing my nose and coughing and spluttering, and I'm pretty sure we can expect a little bit more of that. So I apologize in advance for my sickness. But hey, you're safe away in your little area there of the world, and I'm locked in my little box here, so nobody else is going to get sick. So perhaps we could start with a little bit about why you decided to run for the seat of Hinchinbrook under Pauline Hanson's One Nation.
First of all, thank you for having me on your program,
My
and I
pleasure.
do appreciate it. Uh, I'm running for the seat in Hinchinbrook as I believe that the current Labour Liberal parties have abandoned regional Queensland, and the appeal was the policies. I can most resonate with them.
All right, is there anything like any particular element of the One Nation policies, or just like a blanket approach? Like, what's really stands out for you with One Nation?
Well, the leadership, Pauline herself is a fantastic leader. I was drawn to that. Um, And I think, yeah, I think mainly just their policies and how they are looking after regional or attempting to look after regional Queenslanders.
Mm.
I find that to be very, very important.
So you're going to be going up against Nick Demetto from the Katter Party there, mate. What are your thoughts on how he's been operating?
I don't know much about Nick. You know, uh, I don't really know what to say about him. I think he's been there for what 2 terms now, 2 terms.
I think so, yeah.
He's done a little bit. I think he's just done his job.
Mm,
But sometimes it's nice to have a fresh pair of eyes to look things over.
mm. Well, we have interviewed Nick in the past. It's one of our older videos, so feel free to go back and have a look, and you can learn a little bit about Nick and who you're up against there. I don't know Katter Party seems to be generally pretty okay, but in recent times, I've seen that they've just ditched poor Clinton Hawkes in favour of a failed councillor. That seemed like a pretty harsh move, in my opinion. I kind of a little bit shaken myself with what I've seen with the Katter Party. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I didn't realize how aligned they are with each other, with the Labour
Mm,
government.
yeah.
And the biggest eye opener for me was just this past Anzac Day, as the Prime Minister was here, Lambie, and the both Qatar representatives were here, and they were all kind of hand in hand doing the rounds.
Mm. Yeah, I must say I'm a little concerned because that failed council member has definitely got ties to the Labor Party. So I don't quite comprehend why you ditch somebody who's been working for you for so long, right at the end of the race here, and in favour of someone like that. So yeah.
I find it baffling too, but that's their strategy. It's
Mm,
that's what they're going with. So hey, best of luck. And
yeah, no worries. So what's your background, mate? Like where do you hail from?
I come from Canada, and I have been in Australia since 1999.
Rightio. And what were you doing? Like, what was your state of employment, so to speak?
For the past 14 years, I've been employed as a correctional officer. I've done
Rightio.
12 years in Victoria, and I'm transitioning out at this stage in Townsville, this Stewart location.
Hmm. How have you found that as a career option? Obviously, you want to transition out. Have you kind of just sort of grown tired of it? Have you seen too many things in there that you think you could probably do better from a political point of view, perhaps?
All the above, absolutely. Um, Nobody talks about the issues that correctional officers go through. It's very emotional, day in, day out. But I've met heaps of good people. I can't complain about the people here at all. The officers are fantastic. They're doing the best they can with the resources they have. They get pressures from above, pressures from below, and pressures from each other in every day. So transitioning out is an easy step for me, as I feel that my experience and knowledge dealing with high profile special category inmates throughout my career should be an interesting transition into politics, having a good understanding.
Being mindful, obviously, that, there's a lot of privacy issues surrounding the nature of your employment. Are you able to sort of give us an example of some of the things that you've seen that you could hopefully correct from a political standpoint?
I believe the public have this perception that prisons are, um, this perception of lock them away, throw away the key. It doesn't happen anymore. Those days are gone.
Yeah.
The the crash and bash, they're done. They're done. There's so many cameras, there's so many policies, there's so many procedures. You don't want to get caught up in any sort of investigation at all. At all. Um,
Mm.
so from my perspective is that you do see a lot, you witness a lot. There aren't too many things in corrections that I haven't been a part of. Probably the more memorable one would be the 2015 riots in Victoria. Um, that was an eye opener for the state, eye opener for us in our training. Um, just it was all about the smoking, and it kicked off at the MRC in Melbourne, and yeah, I attended that. I was there for 30 some odd hours.
Can you go a little bit more detail? Because I'm imagining not everybody sort of was aware of what happened in Victoria because we're generally up in Queensland. But, so there was a riot and you said it was something to do with smoke. Are we talking like cigarette smoking?
Yes, yes, yes. When they cut in 2015, they cut out the state government decided to cut out smoking in prisons altogether.
Oh, wow. That would have gone over
Yeah.
well.
Well, there was a riot.
Yeah.
There was a riot. So, yeah, we were called up, and my background was a standard correctional officer, and I had taken on a more senior role of part of the emergency response group, and yeah, we led a team down there and held a unit for a long time, and keeping those men in there safe.
Hmm. So 30-hour ordeal, did you say?
That was just the hours I was there. This went on.
Right.
I did my day shift and I finished at 3:15. Got home by 4:30. I had a phone call. Head back to the prison. We're going in as they've overthrown it. And from there, I didn't come back for another day and a half.
So how do you regain control of a prison once, like the prisoners are in control of the system? Like,
There are tools that we can use to move them. Mainly gases, your CS gas, stuff like that.
right,
And then
yeah.
it's a matter of just going in with teams and rounding them up.
Mm,
It's not a pleasant. Prison in general is not a pleasant environment.
mm,
It's especially when the majority of prisoners are unhappy with what's going on,
yeah.
and they're already angry, and you're going in there with a group of men to try to regain control.
Mm,
And it was interesting because I was watching. I watched the news coverage afterwards, and it showed all the police outside. They had their round shields. They had their big, what is it? Their central location or their central command center. They didn't go in the prison. It was all prison officers doing it.
so
Because police
what was
go
their
in,
purpose?
police won't
Just to
go into
make
a
sure
prison.
so was the police sort of like that next layer of defense should they break out?
Possibly, I don't know, but they never went inside the prison. We
Interesting.
gained control of it. We took control of it
Okay.
for a short time. I think we lost it for about 8 hours, 12 hours, one of the two. Yeah.
So what kind of damage are we looking at? Like, damage to obviously people as well. Like, I mean, was anybody hurt, killed, sort of thing in the process of this
No, I
riot?
don't believe any staff were hurt, from my recollection, anyways.
Mm.
It was just damage. I think there was something over 25 million in damages.
Strength.
Look, it was trashed. It was
Mm.
trashed. And we kind of had a inkling that something was going to happen on the day. But
Mm.
it was supposed to be a coordinated event throughout all the prisons.
Right.
And yet one prison went early and ruined it for everybody. So then
Okay.
everybody got locked down for the entire duration.
Right.
Yeah. So it's a good learning experience for the state, myself, and the men that were involved.
So did they get their cigarette smoking rights back or
No,
no?
no, no. It's a good thing. It's a good thing.
So
Yeah.
as I understand, at least the way they portray it in the movies and whatnot is that cigarettes is a kind of currency in there.
Everything is a currency.
Mm.
Everything is a currency.
Right.
So, yeah. Look, that's the nature of the beast of being an officer, and there's so much stigmata around it, and we only hear the bad stories, but there's a lot of good officers doing the right thing. There really
Mm.
is. There's so many restraints that people don't know about, and a lot of pressure, a lot of emotional pressure and baggage that comes from working in an environment that is so emotionally charged, day
Mm.
in, day out. You hear tidbits of crimes, and you carry that around.
Yeah.
We're not talking crimes of, you've got parking tickets or things like jaywalk. No, you're talking real, the filth of society, really. That's
Mm.
what it is. Men that have done some very terrible things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the term is correctional officer, but how much correcting do you feel is getting done in an environment like that?
I can't I can't say per much on the correcting. There's a lot of programs they're trying. As I said, the days of locking the key, turning away are done. There's
Yeah.
multiple programs that are out there for people to get involved in. And they've got privileges. Look, it's not what people think it is. It's the
Mm.
illusion that people are fantasized with.
Yeah.
If it's run well, then there's harmony. There really is. If you run your unit well, there will be harmony in it.
So, would you say that you've seen a lot of people actually come out of that system, corrected or at least put on a better path? Like they're not. We're not locking away and throwing the key. And you say these programs, like in your time, have you sort of, obviously without naming names or providing examples, but just as an overall, would you say the system has, helped these people become functional members of society?
I think the men who are doing it for the right reasons, yes. But there's a lot of incentive for parole. Do a program, you'll be considered for parole.
Right.
Don't do a program, you'll stay.
So it's very much on them. They can sort of choose to just sit in the cell and do fuck all, for lack of a better term, and or they can engage in the programs that are available to them at their leisure.
Absolutely. Look, the only thing that prisoners miss out on, and I use the word loosely, lose on, is their liberty
Yeah.
to leave. But most things are there. And I think that's one of the appeals to the One Nation aspect of it. When you look at what's happening, the recidivism rate is very high. It's not a deterrent anymore.
Right.
Because I think of going to prison. You may think of going to prison. I don't ever want to go to prison, But on the
Yeah.
other hand, people don't plan on going there. They just end up in that circumstance of being there. But as for deterrent, it should be. It's not anymore. It's more or less, if you're coming from an outside environment that is terrible, your home life, going to prison is possibly a step up.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's
I've definitely
so.
heard
And then
that
there's
about the youth crime scenario, but and the same is true in the adult scenario.
oh, absolutely, absolutely. I can't comment too much on the youth, as in their programs, what their staff do, but I do know their staff go through heaps. They put up with a lot, you
Yeah.
know. Whereas men, when we're managing situations, we give them options. You know, either comply with my direction, or this will be the path that we'll go down. You
Yeah.
know, we give options of this, or you'll lose this. You know, you'll lose your visits, or you'll be on limited spans or limited phone privileges, um, which is a deterrent for most people who will think, well, I like them,
Yeah.
you know. But there are some men in there who just no, they you know, they're not really interested in that sort of, you know, getting those rewards. Sometimes this is just better, you
Yeah.
know. And you know, some of the fundamental policies that I do like about the One Nation were,
All right, continue. I'm
you
just
know,
gonna do this
sure,
again.
yeah, we we want accountability, and I think that is so important, especially when we've got you know, people are getting hurt.
Yeah.
You know, people are traumatized by these events, whether they are with youth at the moment, and same with adult. You know, this it's just trauma after trauma. So from the One Nation perspective, I believe, you know, there needs to be accountability. We'd like to hold um, you know, have a bit more pressure put on the magistrates to really fulfill sentences,
Mm.
and I believe that will help the community gain more trust in the current system, because at this stage, I don't think people believe that there is any balance whatsoever within the
Well,
judicial system, and
for pretty
that's
much all
because
my
you,
life, I've heard, you know, my parents and aunts and uncle, and then their standard comment whenever reading the newspaper is, "This system sucks." You know, and it's hard not to feel that. You know, you drive down the street, you're 3Ks over the limit or whatnot, you get smashed. You know, you've lost your whole day's wage, if not more, in some cases for a minor infraction, and you got people out there doing whatever the hell they want, getting slaps on the wrist and things. You're just like, wow, where's the justice? You know?
I totally agree with you. I totally agree. Um, I think for me with that, I think our community safety has to be prioritized. I think there's a lot of issues that happen with the youth where they say, well, this person can't go to prison because of these home issues. So give them you know, put them on bail. Then they get bail. Then they commit more crime, more victims, more in their wake. Look, I'm all for, I like the tracking. I like the tracking on people. If you're on bail, you should have a tracker. Hands down.
Yeah.
We want to know where you're going all the time while you're going through this process until your crimes have been resolved.
Hmm.
I think that has to be a focus to build this community trust up, hands
Hmm.
down. You know, um, taking away privileges. I've always been of the opinion that you start off with little as you have in prison, and based on behavior, you get more.
Hmm.
Not right off the bat. You don't. You should not have everything as soon as you walk in. You know, with men, they get their pillow, blanket, mattress, um, soaps. Some have TVs. Most of them have TVs nowadays. You know, I mean, really, and a shower. What more do you need? The food's coming to
Hmm.
you. So, also too, you know, where do we go from just that? I mean, prisons are very reactive. You know, there's not really any proactive other than the programs, whether they want to do them or not. From an outsider perspective, um, especially with the youth, I think education's important. You know,
Hmm.
getting them on board. Um, One Nation, we support a program called the Hard Yakka program. Have you heard of that?
No, walk me through it, mate.
essentially what this is that these identified troubled youths go to this program, and they're working with other men who have gone through similar things, and they push them through. They help them. They give them the, I guess, worldly advice, and they teach them the skills to how to cope. The program itself has got a 90% success rate,
Oh wow.
and yet the funding, they can't do, they get no funding. It's a small group, but you never hear about it. You know, the
Mm.
government's either they were supplying funding and now they've stopped, which baffles me because the idea, the idea of this spins me up because I know about judicial and prisons of we're going to build a camp away from everybody because we think that's what the public want. The public want to have the issue resolved and then they don't know any more about it. But
Mm.
to send young people to a camp far away from everybody and put them through hard times, make it difficult, teach them, you know, this tough love. Look, I understand the wording of that, but these young people, they've already had it tough. They've already doing it tough. I mean,
Yeah.
how bad must your life be that you would not want to be at home?
Mm.
And now we're going to take you somewhere else and make it more tough.
Yeah.
I understand the concept, but for me, look, from my experience right off the bat, what needs to be done is purpose and responsibility. That is and education with them.
Mm.
You have these young kids who are repeating. Well, okay, where do you point the finger? Who's at fault? Who's really at fault? You know, if you start looking back, who's at fault?
Yeah.
Where's the ownership? I mean, yeah, the parents, okay, go a bit further back. We continually, as a society, vote the same two parties and expect something to change. We have
Mm.
labor who are so soft on crime. They talk it, but they're soft. That's why our judicial
Well,
system and our
have you seen the
and our
crime
prisons are the
statistics?
way they are. You know,
Let's
and you've
I'll
got
open a new
liberal
one.
who are absolutely spineless when it comes to this stuff.
Well, both of them seem to have been very good at achieving bugger all, but Labor have really gone out of their way. Like, I'm just bringing up the crime statistics here.
Why do you think
So
that is now? Just recent. Why is it in
wow,
the news now?
the you know the crime has definitely increased. Like, I'm just going to quickly share this screen with you so you can see what I'm looking at, mate. In the last few years, Labor have an astounding achievement. Since 2020, it's just skyrocketed. Like, that's a huge jump. You know, I mean, we've had a succession of Liberal and Labor ups and downs, sort of thing. But in this last few years of a full blown Labor control here in Queensland, and specifically Townsville, you know, this crime is out of control.
I agree, 100%. That's
Mm.
why our policies, we're putting community first. We're going to strengthen the justice system, intervention and education, accountability. And, you know, no one talks about this one either, is that no one talks about the victims.
Yeah.
They always just get pushed to the side. And until you're a victim, those issues, they're not, oh, they don't concern me. They're not my interest. Well, no, that's not acceptable to me
Yeah.
at all. You know, we would like to establish better programs or more programs to support victims.
Mm.
That's important.
Definitely.
That's very important.
I mean, you know, the trauma of the victim is just as, you know, I mean, we obviously were saying trauma upon trauma from the criminal point of view, but, you know, again, it is just a succession of trauma just spreading like a virus throughout our community. And that needs to be healed. It needs, you know, we need to work on that, you know, from many points of view. And what suits one person might not suit another.
When it comes to honesty and accountability, I have a very clear understanding that in my constituent of Hinchinbrook, nobody knows me yet. They
Yeah.
will. I'm going to do as much as I can to get my name and to discuss these issues and to listen to what's important to them.
Mm.
So where does it come down to with accountability? I mean, who's really, really at fault? I mean, if we start looking at immigration, we start looking at housing, cost of living, crime, all these issues, who's to blame? Who's at fault? Do you think it is?
Mm.
Do you
Well,
think,
the
asking you straight, who
policymakers. I'm looking straight at policymakers. I mean, when we're looking at, from particularly, at a criminal point of view here, like the legislation is set by the policymakers and the judges, and that enforce that based on what is let out in law, and they follow everything to the letter of the law. We can definitely see that in more current policing standards, as the standard, average everyday citizen has probably copped a speeding fine by now. I think just about everybody's got one, whether you were a dangerous driver or not. Like they're that gung ho on making that money off the general populace that I think everybody must have had one by now. And we all know how that feels. To me, I feel like a victim at this point. Like it got to a point where I'm like, you know what, this is bullshit. I've had enough. And that's where I start looking at things like the Know Your Rights group and starting to learn to defend myself against them. And I've been successful in court fighting these things off, by applying this stuff. But the fact that I've got to go to that extreme to fight off my own government to save a few bucks, that's a trauma. So in that point of view, I'm definitely, policymakers are pissing me right off, but again, like we're looking at, okay, we're not locking them up and throwing away the key, but if prison's a good thing for some of these people, where's their incentive to change? How are we helping them? So if we are this progressive society that, particularly the leftist side claim to be, which is why they're so soft on crime, they need to be implementing something to compensate for that then. And it doesn't seem to be happening. Like as you've just stated, that they're offered the opportunity to go through and, advance themselves, but do they all take that?
So I'll throw this at you and you tell me what you think.
Okay.
The immigration, all those topics, standard of living, crime, those are the causes of the government.
Mm.
But the question was, who's at fault? We, as I said, continually vote. We fell asleep. We, as a people of Hinchinbrook, Queensland, Australia, we fell asleep. We innocently trusted these people for our best interest, but we fell asleep and we kept falling asleep. So they're the causes of us not being aware or us not saying, hey, this isn't right. We need to stop these sorts of policies. This is not what the majority want.
Yeah.
The majority want to live in a safe and secure environment. And that is the government's responsibility. They're the cause of everything that is happening at the moment. But we've
allowed it to happen.
We allowed it. And so we're at fault for that. We own that. We have to own that. And I'll own that because, when you get into
I'll own it to
COVID,
a degree, because
I
since
agree.
I was a teenager, I'm like, fuck this Liberal and Labor shit. Like, you haven't just learned yet. I could see that as a kid. And then I'd get like staunch Labor people in particular, or staunch Liberal even, would turn and go, well, if you go vote for these minor parties, you're throwing your vote away. And well, I'm like, well, how's a minor party ever expected to go somewhere if you don't support them?
I agree. I absolutely agree. But as somebody who's getting into politics, and I've done 3, 4 road shows with Senator Roberts from Cairns all the way down to Brisbane, off and on. And the community trust is always in the top 3. They don't trust politicians. We don't. Well, that's the cause. They have caused all this where we don't trust them. So as a One Nation representative and a candidate, I've got to work so hard. I've got to work so hard because I have to build that relationship with
Mm,
everybody, that I'm not just sitting behind a desk, oh, email, delete, delete, delete. This isn't how I operate, because you can't operate like that in a prison. You can't operate
mm,
like that with men who are extremely violent. Don't get me wrong. I can handle myself in good situations. I
mm.
can't handle myself
But you
in,
can't ignore a hostile
well, yeah, that's
situation.
right. And well, no, you can't. You can't walk away from that. The good officers will know how to de-escalate
Mm,
and escalate if need to. They know their resources. Well, that's why moving into this sort of position and gaining this trust is so important with me and to the people of this constituent, that I believe they've lost that, and they're
mm.
just voting for the sake of, oh, well, it's just another vote day. Well,
Yeah.
One Nation, we're the alternative to that. We say no. And as a good and good as a reasonable officer at some one stage, a good officer knows how to say no to
Mm,
things that aren't right and won't buckle when things get challenging. That's
mm,
important, and we go ahead from, we move up from there,
mm,
build that trust. Now let's tackle the real issues that are affecting your life.
mm.
That's important.
I think trust is definitely a huge one amongst the Australian people over the last 4 years, where we've seen our government, forcibly medicate us. One Nation has definitely sort of been on the standpoint of, pro-choice, which I think is definitely one of my favorite things about One Nation. But, ever since Pauline Hanson came on the scene, I think it was 96, I was in high school and I'm like, she makes a lot of sense, and as a I know you've immigrated to this country and whatnot. I don't have a problem with immigration, but we've seen mass immigration in very very harsh way in the last few years. But even growing up as a teenager, like when I was in primary school, you could count the number of like Chinese students on one hand. By the time I got to high school, they were everywhere. So by the time I
Immigration's
left
interesting.
Melbourne,
Oh, sorry.
about so by the time I left Melbourne 8 years ago, entire suburbs have well, all the signs are in Chinese. Like you go to like you look at Box Hill, for example. Like I'm not. What part of Victoria are you from
Gisborne.
originally?
Well, Bendigo, but then
Bendigo,
ended up in
rightio,
Gisborne and then came here.
rightio. So
Eventually,
those
yeah.
that inner eastern suburbs area, Springvale, Box Hill, it's like a Chinese belt now. Like they've
Hmm.
just consumed that whole area. And I've got nothing against Chinese people. I love Chinese food. I go and get Chinese people who give me massage at least once a week. You know, that's there's nothing against them, but to see that many move in such a short amount of time and consume an entire region, I felt that was a bit confronting.
Immigration's interesting because our policies are basically what goes out can come in. Let's keep things even,
Mm,
just for now. Just for now. Just we're having a housing crisis. I mean, the influx of people are causing, we have tent cities. That's terrible. Nobody in this society or in Australia should be living in a tent city. We have
no.
the resources, we have them. And look, and I am a firm believer that, let's take care of our country. If we have issues, let's resolve them. Let's take care of them. Let's make sure we resolve that before causing more and dumping more and then saying, oh, well, now inflation's gone up. Everything's
Mm,
gone up. And so immigration is more or less, a federal issue, not so much a state, but that trickles down to us. That makes it our problem.
yes.
So um, we have, we do have our strong policies with that, and you would have heard them. The listeners would know them about, we just want it to be fair and equal.
Mm, yep.
We look. I'll put it out there. Maybe we don't want to have people that want to kill us. I'll throw it out there, and it's out there, and that's a fear. That's a fear that this government,
I
both these governments, have created in the
mhm,
Australian. We currently this is interesting. This is international, worldly, but we'll talk about it for a moment. We have this. We're funding two wars, which is terrible, and I'm
yeah.
absolutely against war. Nobody wins.
I agree.
Nobody wins. I've
Oh yeah,
seen
there are
nothing.
winners. The weapons
Well,
manufacturers, they're making a
well,
killing,
they okay,
literally.
okay, yes, but for the people, we don't win.
No,
We lose. But
Black
so,
Sabbath pointed it out in War Pigs quite well.
and what was that? Or what? Sorry, I
The,
missed.
yeah, the song Black Sabbath wrote, War Pigs. Have you ever heard that?
I think I have, but you look. It was probably an.
I'm a heavy metal
Uh,
nut, so
we're probably very similar age, but we would have listened to
mhm.
different music along the way. Um,
Yeah.
with um, we're funding two wars. You know, it's creating interturmoil within our country. It's causing division. There's so much
Mm.
division now by these two
Oh
governments
yeah.
that they've done, and it's terrible. So the solution is to, oh well, now we're going to have people from that area who we've sided with to war come here and live.
Mm.
Those people have lost everything, and I mean, yeah, I couldn't imagine being in such a terrible situation, but imagine losing everything and then going to a country that was part of destroying what you once loved. How are
Yep.
you gonna? How do you not let that go?
Yeah.
You know, how do you? That's terrible.
Wholeheartedly agree.
Well, yeah,
We've spent, I
and
don't
like
know
I
how
said,
long, bombing, the Middle East into submission, probably a good 30 odd years, in my reckoning. We're bombing them, for America's sake more than anything. America has extended that NATO border beyond what they said, and they said they wouldn't. So for their own military purposes, they've gone and done that, and we've, been alongside with the American thug in this, which makes us accountable. And I can't see how it's a sound from a military point of view. It doesn't seem sound to be bringing in people that you've been bombing for the last 30 years. That's madness to me.
as I said, nobody, nobody gets out unscathed. It affects everybody. And to look for our service people who go through this. You know, you've got your police, your corrections officers, your firemen, your ambos, your doctor, who who are in these traumatic fields. Um, I can't thank them enough.
Mm,
The amount that they put up with, especially from the public, you know,
mm,
is commendable. You know, but I wouldn't wish war and to have to send our families um, to never. No, it's unless we're
mm.
directly. We should just be. I'm afraid on the sidelines. I'm afraid that's how I feel, anyways.
I
If it's
agree,
not,
especially now that they're
yeah.
marching us into World War III with Russia. Like, that's madness. Like, why the hell would you do that? And they're talking about conscription. Well, I've got children of that age that they're likely to be rounded up and sent to their deaths because some lunatic in America wants to keep their war machine going. This is nuts. Like, there's no reason to be pushing Russia.
I I totally agree. I totally. I mean, if you've probably done your research, I've done a bit of research. We all see that NATO is surrounding
Mm,
that country, and it goes back to propaganda, the media,
mm,
My whole life, Russia, the USSR, they're the enemy. They're the enemy. They've done this. Um, yeah, but we're inviting countries into NATO, and not that I'm
mm,
against NATO, but I just think, why do you want to instate? What's the benefit? Is it really to push to World War III? I mean, has
mm,
it already started? Are we already in it? And
mm,
except that the bombs haven't dropped. I mean, that's a terrifying thing
mm.
for everybody, everybody
I think we're
involved.
definitely on the brink of it. And I think one of the big things government and media seem to be attempting to do is get us on board for it. They
So,
need that public support. And I don't think they're getting it at all.
well, no, because they've created this, they've caused this chaos within our country.
Mm,
There's so many things happening, and people are just shutting off. You know, they're not paying attention to what the government is really doing. So, really doing. How about this misinformation and disinformation bill?
ugh, don't get me
Oh,
started. I'm
oh,
pretty sure I'll be targeted with that one if it gets through. This channel will be gone. We keep showing memes of Elbow, and he doesn't like that.
Because that's the worst thing in the world at the moment. The memes.
Oh,
That's
it is by his standards.
this
Public dissent.
for us, for One Nation. This is an absolute direct attack on freedom.
Oh yeah.
Oh dear. It is it is an absolute transparent attack, or an attempt of an attack, from Labor to silence anybody.
Yeah.
And what's most disappointing about these sorts of bills going in, and being somewhat conservative, you would think that the Conservatives would say, "Oh yeah, we agree. We're against that. We don't believe in that." But they don't come to bat for us. They will pass it, and then when they come into power, it's just quietness. They don't. Well, we don't want to know about it. They've done the dirty work. Labor have done the dirty work.
Yeah, we'll just leave that
We're
there.
not going to get rid of it. And I think that, again, goes back to the appeal of One Nation. We're saying no to it. We will always stand for human rights and freedom of speech. You might not like me as a person. You can say it, you can voice it. That's okay. There's the old saying, sticks and stones. It's names, but we never want to shut down that line of communication. And with this particular bill, oh dear, this is going to be, we will fight this forever, but
it seems to be gaining support with the Liberal government though, and that kind of, it takes away that, if both Liberal and Labor support it in what's commonly being associated as the uni party these days, because it doesn't seem to be much separating them, all the little parties can say no, and it won't matter. They've got the majority.
That's right. Absolutely correct. This is a numbers game. And for One Nation, and clearly One Nation is leading the way with saying no. And that's the appeal. People need to get on board. People need to, there were a lot of people during COVID. This is an interesting one with COVID. People have COVID remorse now. People, and I don't blame anyone who got whatever shots. That's your business. It's a tricky one, because we were right from the beginning, we were lied to. We were told disinformation, coerced. But we had the Liberal government saying, hey, we didn't force anybody. But then you had the state premiers going ahead to do the dirty work. And what's most disappointing about that, about the Liberal government? And this is where they're spineless to me. They should have come to bat for us and say, whoa, whoa, whoa. We're the federal government. We're going to put our foot down here. Yep. You're not going to mandate this. But they didn't come to bat for us. They just let it go. And that's what really kind of got to me, was that these both, as you said, they are a uni party. We know there is a uni party. And neither one of them wanted to coerce us, and the other one didn't say anything about it. That's terrible.
Well, that's it. Being silent is just as bad as, being there forcing it as well. They had, particularly from Scott Morrison's point of view, he had the position there to go, nah, sorry, constitutionally, Section 51, 23A, you can't do that. Yeah. What's the point of having constitution if it's not going to be enforced or adhered to?
But the good thing is that, with regards to anything with COVID or investigating, Senator Roberts is pushing that agenda massively. They're absolutely Royal Commission.
Doing a lot of great work.
And it's going to happen. Absolutely, it's going to happen. It's not only just about, I read through the proposal that's gone to the House now, and the accountability on every level, the state, the Commonwealth, its territories, in the response. And this is about making sure that the accountability factor happens, and that it never happens again with that.
Yeah.
And he's done very well, very, very well, to get where he has. But, why is there not more support? Why is say, hey, maybe both parties saying, yeah, let's have a look. They don't. They don't want to because they know.
I spoke to the senator, I think it was some point last year actually, and he was saying to me, yeah, and this is possibly one of the more disturbing elements, was that there were people even within the Labor Party who would quietly approach him behind closed, when nobody's watching, and say, "I love what you're doing, keep up the good work." But they're too afraid to do it in their own friggin' parties. Like, that's wow, the ultimate, in cowardice.
I agree.
To know that
A
what your
hundred.
party's doing is wrong, but to still go along with it because you don't want to lose your gravy train. Like, wow, that's cowardly.
Oh. But also, too, what happened to looking after the people in your area?
Mm,
Is that what they want? Is that what they were? You listening when there was people were saying no?
mm,
No, they just, oh, I'll go along because I'm scared. You
mm,
know, no. Look, that's cowardice. That's lack of leadership, and that's not doing justice to the people in your area. That's
mm.
Yeah. I totally agree with what you're saying, and they should have manned up, 100%, 100%. Um,
Yeah, we didn't see anybody from the Labor Party really, man or woman up, any way you want to look at it. Everyone in the Labor Party tight-lipped, and I mean, I confronted Les Walker with an email going, "Look, I don't agree with this. This is not right." He's gone, "Nah, look, the only way out of this is lockdowns, social distancing, masks, and vaccination." I'm like, "Cool, you've just made an assertion that these things are the way out. Can you please provide any form of proof that what you just said will work? You got 14 days, or you accept that you just lied to me." I'm still waiting for a response.
oh, of course, of course. It's as with anything. It's all here are the promises, and then when it's time to
Mm,
deliver, nothing. You know. Um, yeah. So where do we go from that sort of environment? You know, all this downward pressure on people in Queensland.
mm,
Um, that's why, with what we're doing, is we're going this is going to be a big one for us. We're going to be engaging heaps and heaps of people to get involved, to stir the mix, to get people thinking, you know, to wake them up that these sorts of things are happening, and we need to change. We need to
mm.
get away from what they are doing because it's. I'm still trying to think where are the benefits of these two governments. What benefit are they offering? Where when has our life been more difficult in time than what it is right now?
Mm.
And why are they causing it?
Yeah.
Are they trying to break us? Is that what this is? Is this the test to break the Australian spirit?
You can't help but feel that they are intentionally doing it. You can't help but notice what's going on. And surely they have friends and family. They've got to have other people in their lives that are saying, "Haven't you noticed that you guys are fucking our country up?"
I think
Like,
someone could
I
say
gotta wonder,
something.
what does a dinner party look like around, at the Labor Party, representative come Christmas time, like, surely they have to have their own little gathering away from the rest of the human race. Like, in my mind, like, I don't understand how they can even walk down the street and feel comfortable. I'd be looking over my shoulder with the shit that they've done.
Oh, look, and and that's what's interesting because I look at the senators and I look at not just the main two, but there's a couple of other ones too further south. They're doing the right thing by the people.
Mm,
They're bringing the little things that make so much of a difference to everybody to light. You know, and that's a positive thing. And that's again it's not just one thing that has drawn me to not just policy, it's the interaction with everybody and getting everybody on board.
mm.
That's important. Um, couple things I wanted to touch on with you.
Yep.
Let's Okay. Do you want to go into the digital bill?
Why not? Because yes, I can guarantee the audience is going to want to hear about that.
So I've gone through this bill. It's 128 pages. I've gone through this thing with a fine tooth comb. All right, so I've prepared a little some of the information I've found. There were
Hmm.
5 words in this bill: immunity granted to accredited entities. Have you heard of that?
Ah, I can decipher that as government and enforcement agencies and whoever we've decided to give a tick of approval to can do whatever the hell they like.
Absolutely. Absolutely 100%. Not only will this give law enforcement agencies and private businesses, uh, that will definitely lead to overreach.
Mm,
100%. Um, what happens to the people who don't have the technology? I mean, not everybody's up with technology. What happens to them? I mean, at this stage,
mm.
it's technically your um, volunteer. We've heard that.
Yes.
Volunteer
Yeah,
to
we
do
all
it.
know about that. We're not forcing you. We've seen that in the
Oh,
last 4
yeah,
years.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
You think they could have at
Um,
least waited a couple of years, hoping people would forget, but no.
well, no, because nobody did nothing.
Mm,
Most people just went with it and took it, and they say, oh, well, now we know. Now we know that medically we can do whatever we want. Nobody will do anything. Now, let's do this. So
mm.
it reads here. It says what this. I actually didn't know what. I mean, I had an idea of what immunity granted to
Do you
accredited.
have a share
How?
screen option on your side of the fence there,
Oh,
or
um,
down the
possibly.
bottom, perhaps in the section called
Um,
"Present"?
present. Possibly.
I'm
Oh,
not
I've
sure
got
if you
3
have that.
screens, and you're probably going to see some wonky photos. But what I wanted to tell you was that I didn't know what these accredited entities were.
Mm,
So, accredited attribute service providers. So, I've researched this a bit further. These are entities responsible for verifying attributes of an individual, such as age, address. So, how do you verify somebody's age? By cameras. All
mm.
these cameras are going to be linked in to this system. Okay.
Just like the
So,
Chinese
well,
facial
oh, I
recognition
look,
software.
well,
And
oh, I'll get to that. Accredited a sorry, accredited attribute service providers. These entities are eligible to apply for accreditation as accredited attribute service providers, including the Australian public bodies, Australian companies, and foreign business registered under the Corporations Act of 2001. So they're definitely playing this down. They're saying, oh, it's a central location. It'll be easy. This is the biggest form of leashing of people I've ever witnessed in my life.
mm,
This is only about control, absolute control. You will be monitored through, well, I'll give you an example. Say you call into work sick. I'm not feeling well. So you call. That's your phone. Your business, who you work for, is one of the accredited agencies. You say, okay, well, I'm going to go and get some medicine. I'm going to maybe go to the grocery store and pick up some tea or whatever and come home. Well, you leave your house. First traffic lights you see, camera. There's your license plate. Head over to Kohl's or Woolies. You're on screen walking in. You're at the register paying. On screen again. Back in your car. On your way home. If a business can apply to see those sorts of details, HR will get a notification. And then they're going to get a notification, oh, you've left your house. You weren't at home sick. What were you doing? You'll get an email. When you're next in, can you come see the general manager or whoever?
mm.
That's terrifying.
Yeah.
If I guess to put it to everybody, if you didn't stand up during COVID, you have another opportunity. Don't have that regret. This is that opportunity to get involved with this. Email, write to your MPs, get on board, 100% get on board with us, because we are 100% no with this. And So we know that it may limit government assistance. It'll be interlinked with your bank, travel, could even stop you from purchasing a home or major
Yeah.
significant things in your life. And your digital footprint will be attached to, oh, sorry, your, your digital ID will be attached to your digital footprint online. So from your purchases, your uh, surfing around, private conversations,
Mm.
they will all be compiled into a profile. So, who's gaining out of this? Well, the government through surveillance. Tech giants are going to be loving this,
Mm.
absolutely loving it. You know, they will have access to everything.
And they've been trying to get that for
Um,
a long time. It still
well, why do you
mystifies
think?
me that people want Fitbits and things like that. Why would you want to give tech that information? Excuse me.
Absolutely, absolutely. This is immense profits for
Mm.
everybody who's in the loop. It's not us. We're the guinea pigs.
Yeah.
We're the subjects. We're not going to get anything out of it. And you're going to be bombarded with stuff. You know, oh, what about security of it? Well, how many breaches have there been? I think there's been 50 this year, 50 data
Mm.
breaches in Australia, the ones that we know about. There's about 50.
Yep. I mean,
So,
Optus was one of the more recent ones. And what was that? It was a Liberal Party. What's her name? Berejiklian or whatever it was, former New South Wales Premier. You know, she moved over to the board of Optus and instantly data hack. Convenient.
it's, I thought the COVID mandates were terrible. And I never would
Mm.
have ever thought this country, all the Western countries,
Sorry.
would ever be part of this.
Mm.
And they went to it like, oh, this is fantastic. We're going to absolutely do this and we're going to love it. So as I said, One Nation, this is a hard no from us. We're going to fight this till the bitter end. And you know what's even
Yeah.
more, I think I find this really terrible, is that in the Senate in Queensland, when you would hope to think most bills have a debate, they have a conversation, let's argue it. They didn't. They pushed this through based on the numbers, and there wasn't even a conversation. So now it's already gone to the House. You would
Yeah.
think that the House would say, well, we think you need a bit of work. We're going to kick it back down to you guys. Resolve it, then send it back. You think there would be, there won't be. Both
Yeah.
these parties, they're going to push this through, and we're going to be digitally monitored, tagged forever. And unless we get together and get to the parties who are saying no.
Yeah. Well, on that
No.
digital identification thing, I spoke with Len Harris yesterday, and he was pointing out how our all our title deeds for properties have been digitized, but we're not actually sure who's holding the digital titles. Everything's all hush hush. Both Liberal and Labor have been complicit in creating this legislation. We thought it was just Queensland. Turns out it's nationwide, and it's all piggybacked off New South Wales legislation. It's a shit show. Ultimately, I'll send you some links. You can have a look at this stuff for yourself. I think it's something we definitely want to be looking in, because I would say that these digital title deeds are part of another nefarious little plan, but it stinks. It seriously stinks. There's some serious problems there. What's disturbing, though, and as we were discussing, is that these parties, they haven't just sold us out; they've sold themselves out.
I totally agree.
It's absolute. It's a kind of suicide in a sense. I don't understand it. Like, this is absolute lunacy.
But it won't affect they and them.
How can you be
Affect
sure
us.
of that? That's the thing. I don't like. Do they I mean, yes, they've got their little exemption policy in this particular instance here, right? But how long for? What, you know? At what point do you not think, what happens if I fall out of favor and I become one of them? What
Well,
about
isn't
my
that
family? What about my children? Are they going to go along with this, or are they going to end up like? Are they willing to sacrifice their own children? Like, how far does their dedication to this madness go? To me, this is from a psychological point of view, these people should be institutionalized, not given a job.
I agree. Absolutely agree. Somebody's getting their orders from somewhere.
Mm,
I'm not suggesting we are making all these new rules.
mm.
It's coming from somewhere.
It
Someone
does
is
seem the
giving
case because we're seeing
people.
it across all the Five Eyes nations doing the same bloody things.
So who's giving the? So for me, and look, this isn't conspiracy. We
Mm,
know that
it's an
the WEF,
observation.
the WF, the UN, and the WHO.
Yep.
Those are the only three bodies a government needs to succeed. If you think about
Mm,
what each body does, you got the UN, that's military. You've got the World Economic Forum, which looks after economics growth, and then you've got the medical.
mm,
Those are the only three major branches of a government that you need.
mm,
And you start looking at that bigger picture, and then you think, well, why are our members of parliament going there? What are they doing? Why are we getting these sorts of policies? You can't have favor with two entities. Take your pick. You either represent us or you represent them.
mm,
And if them is, forcing or influencing you to go against your job and your policies and to do what's currently happening in the current climate, you can't have two masters.
mm,
Why are we allowing this sort of behavior? Clearly, the world, that whole globalist are pulling the strings. Absolutely, there has to be, because nobody in their right mind would give up their autonomy, their freedom. Nobody
mm,
would, and yet these guys are getting direction and doing it,
mm.
and coercing and trying to get the buy-in. So how can our legislation allow these members to do that? That's what baffles me. I don't get it. Where are their loyalties? They're not to you and I.
Clearly not.
Well, I mean, are things going to get easier for us?
That'd be nice. I'm not holding out a lot of hope on that. I mean, not unless the Australian people really start having a good, long, hard think about what's going on. I mean, the latest polling, not that you can put a lot of faith in polling because it's just a small sample of the population, seems to suggest that Labor is going to lose a lot of seats in Queensland in this next election, which, is a step in the right direction. But does that mean they're going to Liberal, or are we going to have enough people start thinking, hang on, we need better options? I mean, like I said, I've been advocating for better options since I've been, old enough to comprehend what was going on, because even as a child, this seemed like madness, and as the years go on, I just continuously find more and more things that reaffirm that opinion. We need better options.
We need real leaders.
Yeah.
Leaders who and real leaders make hard decisions that they don't have to be. When is it? I don't recall a decision the government's made that's made anything easier or better, or
Mm.
we're going to improve your life this way. I mean, if we look now, and I know we're jumping around, and I like that. It's good because we're getting to know each other, and
Mm.
we have these opinions. So you've got the premiers throwing around, oh, we're going to give you $1,000. That's buying votes. You're giving back our own money. You can't.
Yeah.
People seriously are not going to fall, but they will.
But they do. It's nuts. Like, I mean, Les Walker puts on a sausage sizzle, and I'm talking to a few people like seriously, like he just stole your money and then gave you a sausage and you called it a nice gesture. Like, what? Okay, I'm just going to break in your house, steal your shit, sell it, and then buy you a sausage with the money I got from selling your shit. Like,
I seen a meme online. It showed, I think, the government holding another person's wallet, taking their wallet out of their pocket and giving back their money. And people are, yay, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
And, this is something else that gets to me, and I swear I will never ever do this. When the government or the premier say, "Oh, Townsville, there's a lot of crime happening in town. You know, we're gonna get you guys a helicopter. Here's a helicopter. 8 years of rubbish. You've been through the trenches. We're gonna get you a helicopter. We did that for you guys. Okay, but you also caused this, and
Yep.
now you're getting us something to try to. You're not the hero. You're not the hero in this circumstance. You caused these
Yeah.
issues, and you didn't even say thank you. Hey, Townsville, or hey, state, thank you to the people of Queensland. We've got money. We're going to get you guys a helicopter. Thank you for your taxes for doing that. You allowed us to do that. No one ever does that. It's always, we're building more social housing. We're doing that for you.
Yeah.
You caused it by mass immigration, and I'm having to pay for it.
Yep.
It baffles me how it's just, and then the next week, that's it. It's gone.
Yep.
You know, here's something new, you know.
And Labor are going all out at the moment. You know, what's his name? Stephen Miles, is it? You know, the Palachuk replacement. You know, he's out there with a wallet and he's spending like it's someone else's money.
It is, and
Like,
that's what
you
the
know,
federal
like
government's doing as well.
Yeah. They just,
You know,
whenever the government's giving you something, you know it's going to cost you.
So we're in a cost of living crisis. So I got an idea. Let's do a registry for the shooters and rifles. Let's do that. 160 million only, because we need it. Was that a priority? Was that a priority? Did we at this moment when, you know, everything, all these cogs are moving in this big let's do that out of the blue. That should be done. You know, it's how does he come up with this? Where does it come from? Like, out of everything, you know, I'm not going to be that. Not that I'm going to be premium. I'm just saying the simple things. Let's fix the simple things, you know, things that really affect people you know, from everyday life. Let's do that, and let's do that well. You know, it's all fine and dandy to be in a position, you know, of an electorate or something along those lines where, oh, here's all the problems. I'll put them up here. And they've been here for 8, 10 years or whatever and not solve them. You know? We know what the problems are. We're just showing you that we know what they are, but we're still not doing anything about it. You know, that's, they know, the governments know where the issues are. They're just choosing not to do it until it suits them. I mean, for instance, I only found this out not long ago. Like insurance or private insurance, you know, private healthcare. I didn't know there was 19 tax on it. 19% tax. That's terrible. 10% GST and 9% state. Gee. And you wonder
it costs so much.
Oh, well, there you go. And we're, as I said, as One Nation, we're totally against things like that. Stop smashing the everyday person, you know, where they're saying on one hand, go and get it because Medicare can't handle it. But then how do people afford that? You know,
a lot of people have had to cut things like that away.
Oh, and then what, we're stuck
Can't
in
afford
our
it.
homes, not doing anything, just existing. That's not
not living. That's surviving.
That's not living at all. You know? Oh dear. You know, there's so many things that we, you know, as a party, if we get the opportunity, if we get the balance of power, that we'll address these things. We're going to put them to rest, you know, because people want to see tangible results. They want to see where their dollars are going that are being used effectively. I've heard so much about this, the Hell's Gate Dam. I'm trying to, 1 minute it's going ahead, next minute it's not going ahead. It depends which government's in at the time, who's going to do it. From one of our from one nation, and from my own personal thought process, something along those lines that is long term, it's sustainable, it benefits the agriculture industry, and it's forever. And yet it's still a fight to get it done. That makes no sense to me. I don't understand. Why would, as I said, I've only been in Queensland for a few years, but why would any state government and federal say, this is a benefit? We should be doing it. Why aren't we doing it?
What mystifies me is how much money has to go into all these plannings and discussions before you haven't even done anything. Like, if you're going to do it, do it. Why beat around the bush? Like, you've identified that something needs to be done, so do it. Why not? Why not just get onto it?
It's water.
Yeah, and we need it. Waters have been a big. I mean, if you go for a walk along the Ross River here, there's plenty of places across the. Looks like you're frozen there. You still there, mate? Hello.
Oh, my internet dropped there for a minute. It's back on now.
Okay, cool. Oh, there you are. Cool. Sorry, you're just caught with your hands out. I'm like, whoa, what's going on here?
I got you.
Yeah, you go. We go for a walk along the Ross River here, man, and there's plenty of points of historical notes saying how water's always been an issue here in Townsville. It's not a new problem. That's why they built the weirs. That's why they built the dam and all that sort of stuff. How can you not realize that after all this time? How can it still be something you're confused about?
Well, from the one nation perspective, if we get the balance of power, we're going to do that.
Yeah,
we've already been told, it's been in our policy. We're getting that done. That needs to be done. There's too many benefits. I would rather spend this sorts of money, and that's a lot of money, on something that is long-term beneficial.
Yeah.
And how do you walk away from not wanting to do it when so many people will benefit? Agriculture, our primary industries. I don't know of a state in Australia that has more primary industries than Queensland. I think we have them all. I'm trying to think of the ones we don't have, but this whole state is self-sufficient.
Yeah.
Really, and it produces so much.
Well, the whole country once upon a time was very self-sufficient, but then we come into the Lima Declaration, and for some stupid reason, we've dismantled our entire industrial complex and handed it over to China, putting us at their mercy. That's tactically a very bad tactic. We should be looking after ourselves. I've even heard from a military point of view, we're not even making our own weapons. We send the troops, and then we've got to wait for the weapons to come from somewhere else. What? This is like what our government has done on every level is completely wrong. I can't think, and the COVID was a perfect, example. Everything they did was the direct opposite of what they should have done.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I don't even know where to go with that at this stage, because it is so, it is. So then what, as it goes back to, what are they benefiting? What are you guys really doing to benefit to? Here's okay. The whole climate. This is a big one.
Yeah, good old climate. Yeah, cool. Because the climate changed last night. Did you notice it became night?
Oh, it did.
Yeah.
How's this? I come from one of the coldest countries in the world, and I've been here for 25 some odd years. And I'm in Townsville, and we had all of our windows open, and I woke up this morning, gee, I'm cold.
It doesn't take long, does it?
I think that's the first time I've ever said that in my life, being in Australia. And it's not even cold. It's probably, 20 degrees or something along those lines, And I thought, okay, I'm getting climatized now, which is a funny thing. But here's something that got brought to my attention. Are you aware of anything out at Mount Fox?
Wind farms.
And the battery facility.
And and the batteries as well, of course. So more strip mining of the earth to put up these useless bloody things which have a very limited lifespan.
Absolutely. So this is part of the 2015 agenda? I think that's what it's called, the 2050 agenda, to get more green energy,
Yeah, they're net
renewable
zero.
energy. Oh
What?
dear.
There's nothing renewable about it. I mean, I've had
Well,
this phone, for 3 years now, and I've just had to have the battery replaced after 3 years. Does
it's
anybody
renewable.
really think? Yeah, definitely. I renewed the phone with a new battery. I just pulled some more resources out of the earth and shoved them into my phone, and I've renewed my phone. It's wonderful.
That's the catch with renewables. You're
Mm,
always going to be renewing them. So if they have a life expectancy, and they know this, of I think 10 to 15 years for these wind farms, we're in 2024, and this is protocols for the 2050. So that means we're going to have to replace them almost twice between now and then. And it's currently going to cost the Mount Fox at roughly around $1 billion, destroying whatever views they have. The
clubbing
endangered
koalas and
species. Yeah, the endangered species. There's 4, and yet where are the activists?
yeah.
There's 4 endangered species, and the people there, they don't want them.
Mm,
They don't produce that much electricity to justify having
mm,
them. You
yeah.
know, look, coal is cheap. We have an abundant amount of it, and there's so much protocols now. To even have a conversation saying we need another tax or carbon tax because of so is ridiculous,
Yeah.
because we are nowhere near producing that much pollution to justify the expenditure of what both of these governments are trying to do, to
Mm,
put onto the stress of it onto the people. You can't justify it. It's
no.
get rid of the subsidies. Get rid of the subsidies to all the green stuff, and you'll see how expensive this is.
Yep.
But hey, well, I mean, do I love this utopia of, oh, we're getting everything from Mother Nature? Yeah, it's a nice dream, but it's not reality.
We definitely are
It's not
getting
going to
everything
work.
from Mother Nature. We've got to
Well,
strip mine the earth to build all this shit.
well, that's true. That is true.
That's. I mean, I've got a report here. I'll pass it on you. You'll love it. It's 1,000 page. Thankfully, a lot of it's graphs and pictures, which really helps get through those pages. But the summary at the beginning pretty much sums it up. That if we were to take every car that's on the road around the world now and convert them into electric cars, we'd run out before we got about halfway of all the resources required, and that's including what we have in reserve and what we still have to mine. So what we know of as mineable materials, we'd have to strip mine absolutely everything, every last bit of cobalt, every last bit of nickel, every last bit of, whatever else we need. There's other ones, but they're just not coming to my sick
Mm.
mind at the moment. But we'd have to strip every last one of them, and we still couldn't get the job done. Once we've achieved this, where are we going for replacement parts? We've just used everything on the planet. It's not even feasible. It's an absolute impossibility.
I like diversification of energy. I'm not saying one or the other. I think we're smart enough we could manipulate them all to work well where they need to be. But actually, I'll tell you a bit of a story. I went back to Canada, 2016, 2017, I can't remember. And I don't know if you've ever been. I'm confident you've heard of the
Too
Rocky
cold.
Mountains.
I have heard of
Summer's beautiful. So
them.
when you drive on the number one highway coming into, you're right in the mountain, it must be Canmore, Jasper, around that whole snowboarding, skiing season, that whole area. And you look at the Rocky Mountains, and there's actually a slab cut straight into it.
All right.
You see this from the highway, and there's a company there that's, crushing it down, making cement. Look, I'm not 100% greeny, but I think that was a wrong decision. That is something will never come back. And it's right where everybody going from the major city sees, and it looks, it's sheer, you can see, not natural. You can see the company there doing it. And I think you couldn't have gone a couple hundred meters or a couple hundred kilometers around the back of it. You couldn't have done that and said it's right, and that will never come back.
Yeah.
So to destroy that, to say, oh, to get this, look, it's the same with wind farms. I'm not willing to destroy something in order to get something like that. I don't see the value in that. and it doesn't come back. Once you put these
Mm.
wind farms up, you know, it doesn't come back, you know?
And it's a huge footprint, like when you see them, these eyesores, and you can see them for miles, they stick out like a sore thumb. They look horrible. I don't understand, and particularly through Victoria, they're just everywhere through Victoria.
Yes,
It's
absolutely. And it
disgusting,
does look terrible.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, look, from a party perspective, we'll always embrace coal. It works for now,
Mm.
and it's doing its job, hands down.
Nuclear seems to be a pretty good alternative too. And like when looking at this document, it goes through, the benefits of costs and all that sort of stuff. Nuclear seems to be weighing out as a hell of a lot cleaner, B, a hell of a lot cheaper. And we've come a long way since Chernobyl. Safety standards have gone up, and people might cite Fukushima, which again is still leaking shit into the ocean at a phenomenal rate. And where are the greenings on that one? That does my head in. I actually mentioned that when I was in Win News at one point. We were there and they were doing a big greeny thing about how the coral reef's dying. I'm just like, just out of curiosity, that Fukushima disaster from about 10 years ago, is that having any effect on the coral reef? And dead silence. Oh, I don't know about that. And all the reporters like, oh, when was that? I'm like, how do you forget that? I'm like, and I just said it was 10 years. Why
Uh,
would you ask me again? Like,
it's
it does my head in, you know. But I mean, again, that was because they didn't maintain it. They didn't look after it. If you keep that maintenance and you follow the modern safety standards, it should be fine. And as it is, we're taking shitloads of nuclear waste, dumping it in our desert right now. We are buying up nuclear waste from other countries who are getting all the benefits, and we're just getting the rubbish. What?
makes no sense. But those are the leaders. I mean, that's whether it's a federal, whether it's a state. Hydro, nuclear, coal, they are beneficial, long term beneficial. With, I would believe, would be the least amount of upkeep. As I said, I'm not for one over the other. I think a combination, you
Hmm.
know, we could work it out what would be beneficial everywhere. Um, that would have to lower prices, you would think, going nuclear. But
Hmm.
then again, as I said, nobody for this state wants to do anything long term. I don't understand. Like that's something substantial forever, forever. So I think it's fantastic. I support nuclear. You know, hydro, fantastic. You know,
Hmm.
um,
Well, it needs to be reliable. That's one of the big things. And a lot of these renewables are far from reliable.
how about smart meters, smart
Not
electricity and water?
happy. Yeah, well, I just had a smart water meter put on our property. We got a notice in the mail, and I think it was like 3 days later, bang, it was done. I didn't even get a chance to write a notice of objection. It was done that quickly.
Wow, that
Like they
quick.
just rammed it through. Yeah. So now
So
we've got a
that's
different mayor. I might be taking the matter up with them and going, hey, what the hell happened here? I didn't want this, and I don't want it. I don't see any benefit to it. I particularly on the water meter, like it's no benefit for me. I can see how it could go against me. I can see a lot of reasons why it would go against me, but I can't see how it's going to help me.
it, I think of things like this, and I think about the people that are doing it way tougher than I am, and there's heaps of people doing it way tougher than I am. Imagine being in that situation where you're being threatened to have water cut off,
Yeah.
and then it's actually done.
Mm.
How, you're already in a tough situation because of what's been caused by everything else, and now you're not going to have water.
Mm.
And now they're the state or whoever whoever they are controlling electricity.
Yep.
Controlling your air. This is where we're headed to, and that's
Mm.
why, as I said, from a party, less government is better.
Oh yeah.
We don't need that much control over people. You know, is it because there isn't any information? Is it not being broadcast? Do they not know that these sorts of things slowly being implemented are not for safety, but are for control?
I think for a lot of people, they're not willing to accept that the government would do that to them. And even to this point, after the COVID stuff, I still come. There's not many of them left, but like you talk to most people about it. I was forced into it. I didn't want to do it, but I had to for blah 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 blah. Everybody's got a reason, but there's a very small handful of people I've come across who avidly attack you and defend the government because they would do no wrong. They wholeheartedly believe it. It's very interesting, it's a psychological phenomenon that I think we could write a paper on, to be honest.
How does that change? I'm always thinking, okay, how do you get the word out there that everything that's happening is to distract you from what's really happening?
Mm,
How do you get people to acknowledge? Is it much easier to say, just not think about it, or I don't know. I'm always thinking about those things.
mm,
My brain doesn't stop thinking about, you know, how challenging things have become.
mm.
And it's like, it's just the norm, and everyone's going along with it.
Yeah. It mystifies me too, and it's been one of the big questions, amongst, me and, a lot of my closer friends over the years. How do we get these people to sort of, come around, and I honestly thought COVID was going to be the big wake up call. I thought, oh, they've got to see it now. They've got to see it now. And I was actually shocked to see how many people, when fear dominated their mind and they were unable to see clearly. And it was the same during, the Twin Towers scenario, and, every Muslim was a terrorist, but we'll keep importing them and all that, while telling the general public we should be afraid of terrorists, to the extent my old man had his little phone book, and at the top of it, he'd written in big red letters, terror, and the hotline number in case he's seen, somebody performing what could have been a terrorist act, completely hoodwinked by the whole scenario. I realized then that there was something seriously not right in the way they used fear to control people. And all of a sudden we have these new terrorist laws coming through, and I'm looking at them going, yeah, but now all they have to do is say that I'm a terrorist and lock me up for 3 days. They don't even need a warrant or a trial. Bang, they're just going to lock you up because I'm a terrorist. And I'm actually astounded they didn't pull that out during COVID a couple of times. Surprised they didn't, accuse COVID protesters of being terrorists, because they had that ammunition. I honestly thought they would have done that, but they didn't. I think they're saving that card for a later date. But,
Absolutely.
though that's how far and how long I've been considering these scenarios and how it could go bad. So how do you get people to put two and two together? I don't know. Some people just can't do maths, I guess.
I agree. I agree. There's so much I want to say, but I want to make it relevant to the people of where I am.
Mm,
I haven't done any campaigning yet. I haven't gone anywhere yet. Still, they're still ironing out the little things.
mm,
Um, and once that does happen, I'm gonna start a bit further north. I'm probably gonna start Lower Tally. I'm gonna work all the way down, and I'm gonna be gathering data. Whoever wants to talk to me,
yeah,
and then I should have enough evidence to say, okay, well, here's what's really happening. Here are people really feeling. Are they paying attention? And
mm,
if they're not, then maybe I'll have that conversation with them if they're willing. You know, People care about the immediate things that are in front of them. And we're easily distracted by the other things over and over and over
mm.
again. So I think that's why this next campaign or this next election will be well, we'll see. Obviously Labor's we would think Labor's going to go. We would think that.
I think they're going to take one hell of a hit, especially after, the way Albo's been going. And, and it's just an interesting scenario because I don't see them being able to get rid of Albo, because then we've got another Rudd Gillard scenario. And I'm pretty sure everybody's had a gut full of this, backstabbing stuff, because even the Liberal Party went off and did that, with Abbott and, I always think Abbott and Costello, because it would seem like just such a comedy show, you know. But Abbott and Turncoat, as I like to call him, because he turned on him, Um, I don't think they're. It would be a very wise move politically to turn on our wonderful prime minister at this point in order to save themselves. But I feel like they kind of have to at the same time. They're in a rock and a hard place because the more he comes out, every week he comes out with a new way of making the whole party look bloody ridiculous, and he's dragging them all down with him. I'm surprised they haven't done something about it yet, but I have a feeling they're going to have to, even though I don't think they want to.
I don't think they will. I don't think I don't think they'll do anything. They're just. I think a lot of them already have the feeling it's look we've pretty much we're done. I
Yeah.
don't think there's anything other than giving gifts is whoever will take our gifts, you know,
Mm.
will vote for
May as well
us.
send the country into absolute debt attempting to buy a bit of love, like an abusive parent
Oh,
or an abusive lover, you know.
yeah.
Sorry, I've bashed
Oh,
the shit out of you for years on end. Here, take this ring.
it's I don't know. I like as I said, I don't know where they're going with it. Other than just making life difficult and creating chaos. Maybe that's what they
Mm.
want. Maybe that's what these two governments want. And another thing too with
General
the
socialist practice is to destroy so you can rebuild.
who's the liberal? Is it what's his first name? Is it no Chris? No.
Chris Foley.
Yes. And yet he hasn't said anything about getting rid of or challenging any of the current legislation that's been brought in by them.
Mm.
Anything. He's just, yeah, we'll just go along with it. Vote me in
Yeah.
like nothing happened. How how can he stand?
It's
What
not much of an
platform are you?
opposition, is it?
No. How about saying, hey, these are the concerns of the people. We're not doing them, and we're sorry you guys have had to go through this, but we're gonna grow a bit of a spine, and we're gonna say we're not doing it anymore. And they don't, and he won't.
Mm.
He won't, and then life will continue on. And hopefully this time around, we'll get more people onto the One Nation platform who will
Yeah.
want to advocate and speak up, and get involved. This is what I'm learning about campaigning, which as I said, we're at early stages. We're still very far out. Is that it is getting these people involved and letting them, they're not
Mm.
alone. We're investing in regional areas, regional people. What else? If we don't have the regional, we have the turmoil of the cities.
Mm.
I don't want to do anything with the cities, the major cities. So that's the whole focus of this next campaign is focusing in on, all the people outside of them and giving them that voice, a collective voice, that we've been left out. We haven't got everything that we rightfully deserve because we're producing everything, but we get we get nothing out of it. That's bizarre to me. And I don't know how they just allow that thus far the regulars have allowed this.
Mm.
So, there's always going to be room for improvement anywhere along the way. We've always going to be improving. But it is going to be an uphill battle, and we're gonna and we're gonna hold people accountable. I think that's what the public need. Is to hold people
Well,
accountable.
definitely kind of feel as though we need like a big investigation into everything that's happened, who's done what, and for what purposes. So many things have been done. Not just COVID related, but for decades, so much stuff has been done to this country from various places and premiers and PMs, and so many hands have had a hand in doing this stuff to us. There needs to be a huge investigation and a big criminal hearing, in my opinion, to for anybody to have faith in government once again. And as far as the media is concerned, where the hell have they been? Like they have not done the research. They have not found these things. If anything, they're just as complicit.
I believe people just tell the truth,
Mm.
whatever it is. If it's bad, then it's bad. I'll
Yep.
learn, grow, and we'll move on. But when it's just compounding over and over and over again, it boggles the mind how those people sleep at night saying, "Oh, what's this?" When the two jets, they had the two jets, flying two separate jets coming up to Queensland from
Ah,
Pauline.
yeah. But Bowen and Albo both took a private jet each. Telling me about climate change, and they both got two private jets. Because they needed to bring all their staff. How friggin' useless are these people? They need that many people to look after them, help them. Well,
Two planes, obviously, two
yeah,
planes
two
worth.
plane loads of people to look after them. I'm like,
That's
I know Joe Biden needs a lot of help, but it's truth.
absolutely we clearly see that. Yeah. Uh, I'm trying to. Sometimes I picture. Okay, well, which one? Which country got the better deal here out of these two?
They're doing the same things. It doesn't seem to matter, whether they're mentally competent or not. And I mean, at the end of the day, none of them seem to be mentally competent when you look at the leaders of all the Five Eye Nations. They're all reading out of the same playbook. They're all doing exactly the same bloody shit. There's clearly not a brain amongst them. There is a brain child somewhere, but it certainly hasn't been elected by any, of the nations.
Anastasia Palachuk, her
Mm.
new job.
Yes, I seen that. Actually,
Just recently.
yeah,
Yeah.
I was gonna probably pull that up today. Where is it? I've got it. I've actually got it here. Just find it in amongst my myriad of shit. Actually, there's a picture. That's right. I'll have to load it in. But yeah, was it Minister for Climate Change or some shit? Where is it? I found
Minister
it.
for
I had it here.
how 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 is a how do you justify that by doing such a poor job? Here's another job. Here's another one.
Yeah,
Here you go.
there it is.
Yeah. Unreal.
Smart Energy Counselor, International Ambassador. I couldn't think of anything more useless if I tried. I mean, not only her as useless, but the job itself is utterly pointless. What a load of crap.
Was it advertised?
I've never even heard of this job. I think they just made it up for her.
Unreal. Unreal, isn't it?
Yeah, if you step down, we'll give you this. Because you're really unpopular, but we'll give you a job where nobody will look at what you're doing.
Oh dear.
Nuts, eh?
Oh, imagine
Nuts.
that what she did with the medical stuff, or that sort of enforcing that whole conversation. What do you think's going to happen now?
Yeah.
Like, is she an environmentalist? Is she a scientist? What is she
She's
ambassador?
a lunatic.
What is she going to be doing? What is your role? Like
Mm.
advertising, sell? What are you promoting?
Smart energy,
know?
I would say.
Smart energy.
I
Yeah,
I would have
energy will be
thought
cut
smart
off at.
energy that's efficient and cheap. That's smart energy to me.
I agree. Make it economical. Make it reliable.
Mm.
That's the important message, hands down.
Ugh. Sorry, this cold's killing me.
Yeah, I see that.
Gotta love the kids, like when they're that young, they're crying, and when you pick them up, and as soon as they're like face to face, they cough right in your face. Like, man, my mouth was open. Like, oh,
It happens. So, how many kids do you have?
4.
Very
I'm a
good.
glutton for punishment.
Congratulations.
They're beautiful.
Best time of your
There's
life,
2 of
mate.
them.
Best time of your life.
I'm not having a good
Trust me.
time today. I'm not having a good
No, no,
time
no.
today. I mean, this
It's
conversation's good and all, but
I look at I look at my kids now, and uh, I I miss those years so much. Like that's so important.
So I got 2
However,
older ones and 2 younger ones,
oh
and there
yeah,
was a bit of nostalgia there. You know, thinking back, they're growing up and you go, "Oh, wasn't it great when they were little?" But reliving the little thing again, I'm not having a great time.
well, I think we've addressed a couple things.
Mm.
And being my first interview, I'm stumbling a bit,
Oh,
but
you're doing good, mate.
it's only going to get better.
Yeah.
Um,
I've taken a few people through for their first time. It's kind of a bit of a cherry popper show, this.
hmm. Well, that's what my the media guy at the headquarters said. Look, they said it'll be a good opportunity.
Mm.
You'll learn. You're definitely going to get feedback, which is
Yeah.
okay. It's all
Mm.
part of it. It's all part of it. But like, I guess look, from a campaign personally, we just need people to get out and vote. Have a look at policies. They reflect what's happening in the region. If we get the support, we give the support. That's what
Mm.
happens. It's a numbers game, really.
Mm.
It's not going to be easy, but nothing ever is. Nothing ever is.
Well, my
Yeah.
throat's killing me, dude. So I think we might
Oh
have to
man,
leave it there.
for sure.
It's been great having a chat and helping you get out there to the community. The email that I used, is that one that we want to put up for people to get in
Sure.
contact with you? Yep.
Which one did you send to me?
So Hinchinbrook. No,
Yes,
not that
yes,
one.
yes, yes.
Yep.
Yeah,
So if
absolutely.
people want to get in contact with you, help you out, ask questions, let you know what
Absolutely.
they want to be represented, how they want to be represented,
Absolutely.
to
With
shoot you an
regards to
email.
campaigning, volunteers, I need pretty much everybody. I need everybody. I know I need at least 100 people. We're still a little bit ways out, but once I start campaigning, I believe more people are going to come on board.
Mm,
And there's not much advertising for me now at all. So, but as it gets closer, things will heat up. We'll get rolling, and we'll get my name out there. And I've got a good support group with One Nation, and we've got some common sense policies. So it'll be good.
yeah,
Hmm.
awesome, mate.
And I do
Well,
appreciate you helping me out here. Absolutely. Thank you.
my pleasure, mate. Always had a bit of a soft spot for the One Nation, so I'm always willing to give you guys a chance. And one small question:
Sure.
is there any other One Nation candidates popping up around Townsville and surrounding regions that you've become aware of yet? Or?
Not that I'm aware of. I only know the ones up in far north Queensland. My understanding is we did have one for the electorate next to mine, south, which would be Townsville, I believe. Would be.
Yeah.
And things that became unwell
Okay.
health wise. So she's pulled the pin. But I'm pretty sure there's going to be more. I think we're currently
Mm,
sitting at around
mm.
90 candidates.
So still looking for a few people to put their hand up to represent One Nation in other seats?
Absolutely. The process is a good process. It's fair. And if you can relate to the policies, get on board with it.
Mm.
That's all we can ask people to do is be involved and get on board.
No worries, mate.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much for coming on. It's been great getting to know you. And yeah, we'll probably hear from you again before the election comes in. You've gotten a chance to get out there and meet some of the people. It'll be interesting to hear what kind of feedback you get.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Not a worry, mate.
All right.
Cheers.
Take care.
See you, mate.
See ya.